You're listening to the Roar the Score podcast with Oisin Coyne. Well, hello and welcome into the Roar the Score podcast, the show where we're going to be talking about everything in foot golf in Ireland. My name's Oisin Coyne and I'll be your host throughout this series. I'm delighted to say that this show is brought to you in partnership with the Foot Golf Association of Ireland. Thanks so much to them for getting involved. Well, you might be listening in for the first time, you might be hearing about foot golf for the first time, and you might be asking yourself, well, what the hell is foot golf? Is it literally just a bit of football and a bit of golf? Well, the man on the line with me now for our first episode, our first interviewee, a pleasure to have Cathal Jenkinson on the line, the current captain of the Irish foot golf team. Cathal, pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks very much, Oisin, for having me.
No problem.
Delighted and excited to be on.
Fantastic stuff, Cathal. Pleasure to have you with us. I suppose, Cathal, just for those listening in who mightn't have heard of foot golf before, in its basic form, I suppose, well, what is foot golf?
Yeah, so foot golf is probably, as a lot of people imagine, a hybrid between football and golf. It's played on golf courses or set out like golf courses. You have a tee box and you've got a hole in the distance, generally 18 holes in the course, and the objective is to kick the ball in as few shots as you can from the tee box into the hole. You've got all sorts of obstacles in your way as you would on a normal golf course, like water, lakes, rivers, bunkers, trees, long grass, short grass, wind, and really just kick it in as few kicks as you can, getting past as many of those obstacles as you can, and less kicks than your opponent.
Essentially, literally just the rules of golf, and then rather than your little golf ball, you have your regular size 5 football and your leg power as opposed to your couple of £100 clubs as well.
Exactly, yeah. Like that makes the entry into the sport quite manageable for people, because the barriers are quite low. All you need is a pair of Astros or runners. You can't wear boots on a lot of the courses. But Astros or runners and a decent size 5, a normal football, and away you go. There's no clubs or anything like that. The rules, can be as complex or as straightforward as you want, but the general rules are very simple.
Great stuff. I suppose we reached out to a few members of the public before we shot this podcast, and I suppose to get a kind of a basic view of what people would like to know about the sport. Now, we will go through some of these now, and we'll hear them now. We're at the BCFE Sports Club, and I'm delighted to say we're asking students and sports fans about what they'd like to know about foot golf. I'm joined by Dahi. So Dahi, what are your thoughts?
I just want to know, what is the similarities and the differences between foot golf and the actual sport golf itself?
I'm a huge fan of sport, massive fan of GA. So is there a pathway for women's foot golf, or are there specific events for women?
Being a high level footballer myself, would my footballing skills transfer over to foot golf, or would I need to learn new skills to be good at it?
I'm only aware of the course that's in Kildare right now. I'm just wondering if there's any more around Ireland, if it's a kind of a growing sport. Are there new ones being developed?
I'm a big fan of the sport and golf as a whole, and I'm just wondering is there a possibility where it become able to be streamed or something online in the future? You know what I mean? Another way of being able to see it, because you can't get out there in person obviously a lot. So it'd be a nice way to see it from either online or from a distance.
So I'm kind of looking for activities to do with the family, and I'm wondering, is foot golf a sport where the whole family will be accommodated?
I suppose some great questions. A lot of people wondering, well, what are the similarities between normal foot golf and golf? I suppose you did kind of touch on it there a second ago. As you said, literally just the rules of golf, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Basically, it's the rules of golf, but I suppose there's the similarities of playing. There's a bit of strategy in terms of planning your way around the course. It's like the best way to approach a hole, or where you want to leave a ball on the green to make an easier putt, that sort of thing. I think what a lot of people get wrong is it's probably a little bit more like golf than like football, because you do see a lot of footballers come out and they can put a ball on somebody's toe from 40 yards away, but that's not really the objective of our game. Our game is to get the ball to stop on somebody's toe 40 yards away, and that takes into account speed and roll and the lay of the land and the wind and all those other sort of factors. So it's a little bit different. It can be a little bit frustrating at the start, but it's very satisfying. Again, similar to golf, you only need to make 1 or 2 good shots over the course of a round and you're hooked and you want to come back for more.
You mentioned the frustration aspect of it there. Now, I've been playing down in the Highfield course in Edenderry for the last couple of years, quite not too often, but You mentioned the lakes as well at the start. Plenty of footballs that ended up in the little ponds and lakes, and nearly burst a few balls as well in the forestry around the course. But Carl, you got involved in the sport like right from the start, didn't you? Back in 2013, I suppose. Talk to me a bit about how the sport how it kicked off in Ireland, because you're pretty much there from the start.
Yeah, I was for my sins. Myself and my housemate at the time went up to a recently opened course up in Tala in Dublin, and they were holding a pairs competition. So we said, we'd throw our name in the ring, and one thing led to another, and we ended up winning that competition. He retired undefeated, never set foot on a foot golf course again, and I was bitten by the bug, and I ended up setting up the first national association with the owner of that course at the time, and we ran a national tour. So we, as more and more courses around Ireland opened up, we kind of went to them and said we'd like to host the competition and put on a nationwide tour over the course of the first season. Quite small scale, but we also held an Irish Open, which was our kind of opening the door to European players coming over to Ireland. Yeah. Then in 2015, that expanded to qualification for the following year's World Cup in Argentina, 2016. So every year then you kind of had something to play for, and every year, it's just got bigger and bigger, and the association itself has kind of morphed over time, over those kind of 10 or 12 years. Courses, some have come and gone, but they're still around a dozen, dotted around the country. And there are some players like myself who are still kind of fixtures on the tour from that very first year. And thankfully, a lot of new players have come in, and a lot of talent, and players who just have excelled at the game and who have gone on to achieve good things, international wins and open wins in front of big crowds, participating in multiple European Championships or World Cups. So it's gone a long way since those opening days in kind of 2013-14.
A bit of a pioneer of foot golf you are yourself. You mentioned there the kind of nationwide tour you organised at the start. Now people are wondering as well what courses there are around the country. Now as far as I'm aware, there's obviously the ones in Dublin, there's one in Navan as well, and in Kildare. But there are lots scattered around the country as well, and they've probably expanded over the years as well. Talk to me a bit about the other courses around Ireland.
Absolutely. So for the national tour this year, I think we have 7 events. So that would include Newcastle in Dublin, Kilkenny, Highfield, which is also the host for the Irish Open, Cathal in Tipperary, Munster Foot Golf down in Shannon. There's a new golf course that's come on up in Enniskillen, and I'm sure I'm missing one. But there's a number of other courses that aren't holding national tour events this year. So we've had previous courses around Hote up in Dublin, Cross out in Mayo, Killarney in that's the other one that I forgot for the tour this year. Cathal is on the tour. Killarney used to be down there as well. Every county at some point has had a course or has a course, and it doesn't take a lot for a current course owner or even a pitch and putt course owner to convert it into a 9-hole or an 18-hole golf course, supplement their income, draw in a new crowd, expand the game, and get onto the association and potentially host a national tour event and boost the profile of the sport locally.
No, it's quite eye-opening as well, because as I was saying to you, I suppose people in the Leinster direction mightn't even think there are ones scattered, but they are literally everywhere like that. I suppose then you mentioned as well there a couple of moments ago the Irish Open, that kind of opened the avenue for European players to get involved. Now you've had a lot of success in the Irish Open itself, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been fortunate, I suppose. Maybe it's because I've played so many of them. But from the first one back in 2014 up in Dublin, since then, 2015 onwards, we moved to Highfield as kind of like our home or our adopted home of foot golf, and we've held every Irish Open at the venue since, including this year's one in September. 2017, I managed to come from nowhere really. I think I was about 6 shots or something behind the leaders after the first day, and managed to sneak the win by 1. And last year then, 2013, after 6 years of trying, I managed to retain the crown. I won it last year by 3 shots over the 2 days. And it's a great experience, really. You get a lot of international players coming over. There's a pairs tournament on the Friday. It's a great atmosphere. It's great to meet those players that you'd see at maybe their home events, and you'd see them at the big competitions, like World Cups or Euros. You're playing against some of the best quality in the world comes over because they're trying to pick up ranking points for European or world tours that are managed by the world governing body, and it's just an all-round great experience, and it's not daunting for anybody. There's a real kind of collegiate atmosphere and just a bit of crack.
Honestly, it sounds like it's almost like I always look at foot golf like, geez, if I didn't make it in football, imagine travelling around the world just playing foot golf. Just seems like so much better crack. I don't have to be the fittest man in the world to play it either. And you can go out with anyone really. But we were chatting to some other people as well. You're one of the fortunate people to put on a green jersey in the world of foot golf for Ireland. Talk to me a bit about that journey. Obviously starting off in 2013 and then representing your country. That must be a huge honour.
Absolutely, yeah, it always is every time you get out on the course, and it's a lot harder these days than it used to be. I suppose when the sport was very young here, it was easier to make the team. And as the years have gone on, qualifying campaigns that we would have domestically, the standard has just gotten higher and higher. And, it is quite difficult now to make a national team. So last year, for example, we would have held our domestic tour, and we were taking a team of 27 over to Devon in the UK next month for the second ever Four Nations Championship between England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. But that 27 is made up of juniors, senior men, a ladies team and a men's team. So to find, yourself in one of those qualifying spots, you really kind of have to be at the top end of the game here. That said, there has been one or two players where it was their first season and they've managed to break into, those qualifying places. So it can be done. It's a fantastic honour for everybody, to pull on the kit and to line out representing your country. And, there's huge excitement around it. And I suppose the prestige that comes with it just can't be taken for granted.
100%. And I suppose not only wearing the green jersey, you get to wear the captain's armband as well. I don't know if they actually give you an armband when you're out there playing, but captain as well. I suppose I believe you were the vice captain a couple of years ago, and now you've taken on the role of captain heading into this Four Nations tournament in May. What kind of, I suppose, what are the processes involved in becoming a vice captain and then heading on to the full captaincy as well?
Yeah, they're quite different. For what we've done in the National Association for the captain for the last couple of years was giving them free rein over who they choose as a vice captain. So I would have been chosen, by former captain for various reasons, I suppose. And this time around, I decided to put my hat in the ring and, put my name forward to be the captain. And it went to a kind of a player vote. And thankfully, the players in that Four Nations squad wanted me to be their captain. And, I gratefully and graciously accepted. So there's different styles, for different captains, and mine is probably more around self-accountability and, players standing up, doing their own training, doing their own fitness work in the winter, having that responsibility for what they're going to deliver. And when it comes to me picking the team, primarily based off performances only, they've either put in the work or they haven't. And, that's the style that we're going to go with. People who deserve to be out there on the day will be the ones who are playing the best, not just the ones who are maybe ranked the highest. So there's a lot of responsibility on us. There's a bit of pressure on us as well as defending champions. But, it's something that we're embracing. We're kind of trying to play that underdog profile a little bit. But I think the guys we're up against in England, Scotland and Wales, they know how good we are. We beat England at the World Cup as well as beating them in the last Four Nations. So, they're not going to be taking us for granted. They're going to be expecting a really, really competitive game, and that's what I'm trying to instill into the players. The pinnacle of competition really for us is team foot golf, and this Four Nations has a lot riding on it, and we want to retain that trophy.
I suppose you're like the Roy Keane of foot golf as it stands now for the Ireland team.
Maybe the friendlier version of Roy Keane.
It's always nice to hear the satisfaction of beating England at a World Cup as well. I suppose we were chatting as well about the World Cup last year in Florida. Obviously, there has been more international tournaments in the past. Have you been involved in any of those previous World Cups or even the Euro competitions in the past?
Yeah, so I haven't played in Euros, but I've played in three World Cups, or I suppose been involved in three World Cups now, going back to the 2018. No, here, hang on, there's got all that because I'm after miscounting.
I know was it Argentina and Morocco, was that?
Yeah. I was involved kind of remotely in the last World Cup and in the prep and the build-up, but not as a player. But yes, the first one, Argentina 2016, that would have been my first World Cup, and it was only the second World Cup. The previous one, 2012 in Hungary.
That must be Ireland, a crazy experience going to Argentina, no?
It was amazing. We were out there for roughly 2 weeks. There was 13 of us going. We were very green and kind of inexperienced at the time. It was a very, very steep learning curve, and you were playing on, prestigious golf courses that were maintained like a snooker table. Just not really what we were used to. And, probably fair to say on the talent that we brought, we underperformed by one or two players, who were able to raise their game. But we learned from that and tried to apply it to the next one. So we went to Morocco then 2018, and we're much more kind of successful as individuals and as a team, qualifying for the team event in the men's, the knockout stages, but we're beaten by a strong Dutch team. And then there would have been a World Cup in 2020 in Japan, but for COVID, so that moved us on to the recent one in the States.
In Florida.
And again, in Florida, yeah. A number of good individual performances across all categories, especially seniors. And then the team event, so the ladies qualified for their first ever knockouts, but were beaten by the eventual champions Japan. The men qualified into the group stages and beat Slovenia and beat England, but lost to USA. And unfortunately, only one team was guaranteed to progress out of the group, so that was the end of Ireland's involvement in the competition there. But really going from strength to strength, and as I said, I haven't been involved in the Euros, so I can't really comment too much on that.
No.
But there is a European qualifier for the Irish team in Slovakia in June, hoping to qualify for the Euros at the end of this year as well.
That's in Antalya in Turkey. That wouldn't be a bad little trip in December, wouldn't it?
No, there's worse ways to spend a week in December than a sunny kind of all-inclusive prime golf course, absolutely.
I suppose you mentioned there as well how competitive it is when you're at these tournaments. And when you mention places like Argentina, obviously the big names come around in the football sphere. But do you ever come across some of those ex-professional footballers on these foot golf tournaments? Because I can imagine some lad retiring from the proper game at 35 might be saying, look, I can definitely do it on a foot golf course as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, you do. I know at a kind of an Irish level, Damien Duff used to play a bit around Tala, and I'm sure there's some Irish League players that have been getting out as well. Cork City have a fundraiser, I think it is, in foot golf Kinsale coming up at some stage over the summer. For the bigger ones, I've seen or played with Paolo Di Canio and Alan Smith. So like maybe the two biggest names that I can remember.
There, yeah. I can imagine Di Canio trying to volley the ball into the
as long as he doesn't do any handballs and give it over to the rest or something, I think it'll be okay. But yeah, no, there would often be kind of maybe cameos nearly. They might play the kind of exhibition day, or they might play the pairs event. Some of them would go on and play the main event as well. But you'd often find them, quite far down the leaderboard, because while their striking would be pure and their power could be excellent, the skill set is just a little bit different to what they're used to. And there's a lot of satisfaction in any foot golf, any mere mortal foot golfer, putting it up to the likes of a Di Canio or an Alan Smith or a Nelka or one of those,
Definitely must feel nice when you do get a better score than the lads on the scoreboard. But I suppose sticking to the international side of things, Cathal, you're involved with the Federation of International Foot Golf as well, organising these competitions. Are you dealing with kind of the other federations from around Europe and the world as well?
Yeah, so I got involved with them this year, towards the end of last year, and I'm involved with the competitions committee there. So myself and a number of other kind of international representatives who are all on their own countries' committees got together, and one of the things we did this year was evaluated the bids for other countries to host these kind of major international opens, and made sure that the standard was going to be at a sufficient level, and really just trying to kind of professionalise and raise the bar of the world governing body for international foot golf. So it takes up a little bit of time. I've had to step back recently, just in terms of some family commitments. But it's something that I'm eager to get involved in, and to see how you can kind of lead a bit of change like that on the international level, and then apply some of those learnings and developments to the Irish committee, to try and grow the game here as well. It's really satisfying, and there's an end purpose, for anybody who's committed to getting involved in that voluntary capacity.
I was going to say, you've had a huge role, I suppose, in growing it, Cathal. I suppose just to finish up on things, you've been there from the start, you've been through all the nitty and gritty through the middle, you've enjoyed the highs and the lows of the tournaments as well. But I suppose concluding things up, how do you think it's grown? Has it grown as you would have planned in 2013? And I suppose, what do you envision the sport will aspire to in the future in Ireland?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot in that. You would always hope for there to be more players, and more players in more categories. For example, more juniors and more women and more senior women and more senior men and stuff. But as we've grown over the years, those categories have developed and have expanded. So maybe not as quickly as some people would like, but it's certainly on a good trajectory. Similar to the courses, we started off with a small amount of them. course numbers have grown. Hopefully business for those courses has grown and shown other courses that, foot golf is a viable option to increasing their revenue. One big change, I suppose, we've got in this year is one of the guys in the committee has managed to secure a golf course that doesn't have any foot golf, and we're holding a once-off event up there. So that'll really open the door, I suppose, and maybe open the eyes of other golf courses around the country to, what it means to host a weekend foot golf event, and the sort of revenue that can come in, and accommodation and bar receipts and restaurant food and, all that sort of stuff. And the condition that we will leave the course in afterwards, because, we won't be taking any sort of marks, like there's no pitch marks or duck shots, like you find with some golfers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of varieties and measures, that you could look at the development of foot golf over time, but it's definitely on an upward trajectory. We're always looking for more players to play. We're an open and inclusive sport and organisation. We're welcoming, and, for anybody who wants to get involved, we'd advise them to check out either the website or our social media, and events are run throughout the year, as well as local events not managed by the association. And just come down and give it a go, and what's the worst that can happen?
Fantastic stuff. No, listen, Cathal, that's I suppose a great insight to the sport. As you mentioned, like, everybody can get involved in it as well. I suppose if you look at it from a casual point of view from the outside, maybe not diving into it, I know a lot of lads would probably see it as a bit of a stag do sport, go down for the weekends. But you, and I know a lot of the lads, even someone like Sean Scully who's got involved in it there, we'll chat to him at some stage in the podcast as well. You can get involved in it in a number of months. You're sticking on a green jersey. It's absolutely brilliant. I think, as you say there, even take one stab at it, and if you don't like it, well, sure, at least you tried it. But sure, everybody seems to try it once and then they're hooked on it as well. Well, listen,
exactly. That's the danger, probably. That we'll have too many players,
especially in a position like yourself, as you say, new additions to the family, extremely busy. How are you managing foot golf in that aspect? Is it a lot to handle?
I suppose because of the voluntary nature of the organisation, you can take on as much or as little as you want. The association is just happy to have people involved, and to get stuck in. I've got 3 kids, kind of under 3 at the minute, so my foot golf career has taken a little bit of a step back. But I'm still able to get out the odd time after work, during the week, and get in a round or two. And it's really just like there's an element of kind of mental health and maintaining a bit of fitness and maintaining a bit of competitive spirit, and then getting to test that out against people who I consider friends after playing against them for kind of 10 years, a couple of weekends a month, and it can be a challenge to manage, but with a good kind of support network at home and a very forgiving and understanding wife, I managed to get out and maintain some element of competitiveness on the course.
Great stuff. People won't be going for Project Mbappe with the kids now. It'll be Project Jenkinson with the foot golf going for the next couple of years. Listen, Cathal, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. And listen, best of luck to you and all of the team heading into the Four Nations over in England in May. Best of luck to everybody.
Thanks very much, Roisin.
Thanks, Cathal. Thanks for listening to this episode of Roar the Score. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications.